Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Sports Wave Network and Sports Corner with the Conn Man. This evening, I have with me a very special guest. He goes by the name of Paulo Paris. He did my show. Part one was off the hook. I don't know what the hell is going to happen today, but we're going to find out. Paulo, how you doing, my brother?
I'm doing good, doing good. Just got still recovering from that flight in last night. It was crazy, but I'm good. I'm happy to be here, people. You know, always good to see you, Mike. Always good to see you. You know,
Always. Now, first and foremost, Paulo, I want the viewers to know that you just recently achieved a great accomplishment. Can you let the viewers know what that was?
Mike. Oh, I've been involved with so much stuff.
I
It's nuts.
know.
It's nuts.
Didn't you get some advanced accreditation or something like that?
Oh, yeah. That's one of the things. Yeah, my job.
Talk about that, man.
No, that's okay. That's crazy. Um, what I do want to talk about was one of the things I definitely wanted to talk about, because I recently told you I've been involved with pretty much kicking back to the community for free and trying to shed light on all the people that do great things that nobody really hears about, you know, and these are people that are all around us and all around the country and around the globe, how interconnected we really are, because one of the biggest problems I ever had growing up as a kid was I never understood the West End, South End problems that we had when we were all Creoles that originally started in the same neighborhoods,
True.
And I'm saying to myself, we were poor, but we were powerful back then in our unity, and now in our division, we're weaker and easier to separate, and it's only because we don't even want to recognize our own like you do so often, with your shows and stuff like that. I mean, in the last 6 weeks, I've connected with about 5 authors, Cape Verdeans that are doing books and stuff like that, and I've been putting them on with Charlie Perry, and I'm going to stop putting them on with you, and stuff like that. And it's funny because when I'm talking to these people and I tell them that they're going to interview somebody and they think it's a big thing, I said, no, it's actually other Creoles, but and they love it because of the attention that they do. And most of the times it ends up being a cousin of mine. you know, you know, and I'm heavily involved. And because I want to connect, I do a lot of things with DNA, and I'm finding people, not just people we grew up with that are family members, but I'm finding people in different parts of the world, and I keep saying to myself, why aren't we all working together like what happened when Cape Verde flooded and all that stuff?
Yeah, right.
Like I'm looking right now, Estevez, the dude with the playgrounds, he grew up in New Bedford. He lives in Connecticut. His daughters were Ivy League. They own their own bakery. And here he is building all these things. I'm connected with him on that. We do a DNA test. He's my cousin. And then he knew all your Billy and all the older generation people and all that. He knew them as a kid growing up. Never knew that they were family, But he's doing big things for Cape Verde. His daughters are doing big things. It's insane, But yeah, no, I never like to talk about what I'm doing.
I know.
Because and you're gonna laugh because I was just on a trip to Florida and I was doing it as a godfather. My godson had a son, and then he made me the godfather of that son too. And so it was the first birthday, and we decided to do a trip together in Orlando. While I'm in Orlando, I just let some family members know I was there, and all of them started reaching out to me, and I ended up going to visit one. And one of them, she's a big time hairstylist, and she's done. You're gonna love this. one of her closest clients, Jamel Hill. From the
Oh, okay.
And you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So yeah, and now she's working on a cookbook that she's going to release, and I'm connecting. She's going to be coming up here to the Cape Verdean, museum and place like that to speak on her book that she's releasing. And it's crazy how interconnected. That's another fine example, of people like that. And I really want to apologize because I really wanted to be on when you're Todd, because there's 500 million questions I could ask Todd to reach myself. And a lot of the guys in New Bedford, they don't know how close I was with Todd Reese as a kid, growing up in the old neighborhood. How really connected we were along with David Gonzalez, the Gonzalez brothers, and all that. Dave Gonzalez, first Cape Verdean Blue Angel pilot. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
So this is what I'm saying. Like, Todd did his thing. These are people we grew up with in the neighborhood. And I can remember back in the 70s where we were just standing around in the snow with nothing to do, and we out there talking. And then one guy goes and grabs his plastic football, and we're playing Fumbulation. Wearing Tyroleans, or somebody says, let's go grab some shovels and let's go clean up Monty's Park Court. And we playing in boots in the middle of with gloves on. We playing basketball at Monty's Park, And then, like, when my family meets these people and we're looking at each other, we're talking like we spoke back in the 70s, but they're looking at this person because of their accomplishments they have now.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not knowing where these people started from. You see what I'm saying? How crazy that sounds, And I'll tell you another subject that's really sensitive with me that I had on. I'm going to talk about, because I really try to push a lot of the people in New Bedford, a lot of these parents now, to prepare their kids for private schools. And I know that's a sore spot. A lot of people from New Bedford, because they think that I'm telling them to give up on the public school. They're caring about what it looks like on the local level. I'm caring about what that kid's going to be in the future. Because nothing against public schools, but you don't know how great that person could be if you put brakes on them and guardrails around them versus them exposing them, to everything they possibly could be. Because you don't know what their talents. I call it herding. In New Bedford, we herd everybody. And those who fail, people say, oh, they failed. No, they failed because you didn't allow them to be what they could be in another field or another subject. They failed at what you wanted them to do. So they think they're a failure. Because they didn't accomplish what you wanted them to accomplish inside of the box that you put them in, And I have this same argument about sports. We all learned to play basketball, football, whatever, a certain way with a certain mentality. Then we went to go play these other teams. All of a sudden they throw something new on us, and we feel like we failed. No, you only taught us this one way. You see what I'm saying?
Right. That's true. That's true.
So, and it's a thing recently where I told somebody, they said, somebody was talking about, oh, it's really about your circle of people. And I looked at them, I said, again, you're thinking one-dimensional. I don't think of my circle of friends.
Box.
No, I think I'm a Venn diagram. I'm not a circle, because a circle only contains 360 degrees. But a Venn diagram is multiple circles of multiple people, and you're the core of it that intersect you, And then, and I was telling the book writer, I was like, you can't be isolated. You got to be parabolic. You got to be kinetic. Like, whatever you show somebody, it needs to bounce outward in multiple directions, towards multiple people to be fully exposed, versus only doing things like that. So, yeah, you see me arguing with a lot of people, and most of the time, it's not me arguing with them. It's me, trying to expand what they're talking on, because they want to argue inside of a box and everything I do is global. You know, everything I do or say is global. I've been to many places in this world to only see things from one angle. You know, and it's funny because me and your brother, when we have our conversations now, a lot of times it's always
I
like,
can imagine how that is.
I mean, because my love for your brother is like it's crazy wild. Because I mean, we must have been 1.5, almost 2 years old when we met. You know, and it's funny how people they look at us and they can't believe that me and him are so close when technically we're the same person. He's just more nicer than I am. You know, I don't care what anybody on the planet thinks about me, family, friends, or anybody, because I look at them like they're restricted versus open. You know, and I understand who they are and what they are, but then they're trying to put me in that box, and I can never be in a box. There are no borders with my thoughts. You know, there are definitely no borders with the way I think. I mean, it's like you have this breakout show. You could probably stay in the same format as everybody else and go for the same people they go for. And after a while, people that it's just another show. Versus
Right.
what you do, you know, like you said, you tell me, Paul, talk about what you want to talk about. Versus us being on the program. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, because we could be on here just going at each other. You know?
Yeah, true.
Let's do one sports thing that caught my eye.
All right, before we get there, though, because we're going to do that. But I want to get your opinion because, you know, I'm very good at staying in my lane when it comes to certain things. But you have experience, like you said, you're global. I'm local. So I want to get your opinion on what's going on today with SNAP, with federal funds being cut. I want your take on what the hell is going on today. You being a veteran, hey, we only got an hour, bro. We only got an hour.
All right, so I tried to explain this thing that Trump is perfect at, okay? He's perfect at the chaos theory. And Trump is a perfect example of everything I just told you about myself, okay? Every other president before him, even the bad ones, even the good ones, it was a one thing that you didn't like about them that you went back and forth on. In order for Trump to steal everything, he has to have you chasing him everywhere, all the time, at all times. As soon as, and I posted this the other day, it was a joke. It was like a guy interviewing Trump saying, release the Epstein files. Okay, you know, there's the war in Israel. Whatever you say, he's got another distraction for you. Those are his firewalls. And the more, see, like, he got you talking about SNAP. He got, you know, maybe me talking about Israel. He got another guy talking about Ukraine. Now he just said, they're going to do nuclear testing. The more things he puts out there, the less people can focus in one area and come at him. He believes in the chaos theory. He believes in the chaos theory. Like, even now you got 2 judges that told him you have to go into that money.
Yes.
But guess what? Guess what it buys him?
Time.
It buys him the word time. As long as Trump can waste your time, guess what we have not said yet? Release the Epstein files.
That's true. That's true.
Every time it comes down to release the Epstein files, there's going to be another thing that he's going to put up in your face and you're going to talk about more than that. And it's only going to be for a short period of time. Every time he brings something up, snap now. You know, last week he had something. Because, you know, you've had these arguments growing up, but probably me and Jamie growing up to where you said, hey, I don't want you guys doing something. We'd have you talking about something else.
Right?
Guess what? me and Jamie ended up still doing what we were on.
Exactly. Damn right you did.
Because nobody's following his money. Nobody's chasing his people because you keep getting all these new events. Well, guess what? We're going to blow up the boats in the Caribbean. Now we're blowing up boats in the Pacific. Then he sent the whole entire aircraft carrier group. When y'all were just talking about just a single plane dropping boats, then he released Epstein files. Okay, send a carrier group. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's not going to release the only thing that could bring him down is the Epstein files. And we cannot focus on it long enough to force him to do it. His prior time he was in, everybody was trying to get him to release his taxes. In the 4 years he was in, did he release his taxes?
Nope.
But in them 4 years, he kept creating distraction upon distraction upon distraction for you to talk about. Because he defends his one weakness, the Epstein files, by having you talk about other things. He defends it without having to defend it because he brings up other things for you to look at.
Like the ballroom.
He is the movie, Now You See Me, Now You Don't. So, ballroom. Oh, let me go on that one. You know what the idea of the ballroom?
The ballroom.
So, the ballroom is another distraction, but Hitler used it as a distraction. In 1933, Hitler wanted to build a bunker in the Reichstag. You know how he built the bunker? He put a ballroom on top of it that was so freaking huge, nobody ever knew there was a bunker underneath it. Distraction. In front of your face. Distraction. You're never going to get him on the subject that he's weakest at, because then he can raise tariffs. How many times have you done that? So he got you focused on Snap, which he's going to lose, but it's going to take time for him to lose. You know, he knows he's going to lose it, but he knows he just saved himself maybe 4 months, 5 months, 6 months of non-Epstein file talks.
Now, Paul, do you think those Epstein files are ever going to get released?
Not while he's in office. And think about it. He even got people talking about him running for a third term long enough.
I heard.
Until it ran its course. He got you to actually believe he could do it. This is what I'm saying. His distraction, he's so good. If you ever read the 48 Laws of Power, this is one of them. This is when they talk about Barnum and Bailey. You know, create the illusion while doing what you want, what you really want in the background. It's the smoke screen for whatever. I mean, nobody's paying attention that these contracts that are being negotiated after he raises the tariffs and all that,
yeah,
they were bringing in money. Who do you think he's bringing in the money for? Whose companies? He's getting it. And mind you, every dynasty, the reason why they fell was not because of the person. It was because of the people around him that protected him. Like Russia has to always keep the generals happy. So Putin could be stealing trillions, but at the same time, them generals are getting millions. It's when they can't get the millions, there's a problem. You know? So Trump is stealing trillions, but these senators and all these people that are voting the way he wants to, they're being set up for when they're done too.
That's a fact.
The companies that they're investing in or the companies that they own. Hell, Mike Johnson's wife's company was hired to do a job. She was given something like $1 billion contract for the job for the company that she owns. Yeah, Mike Johnson. The reason why Mike Johnson comes out and talks the way he talks is because his wife has already been set up.
I didn't know that. I had no idea about that.
This is the stuff that happens. It's I could talk about this like New Bedford. You could do the same thing. This is what I studied when you, as a war planner, what you study is the main thing you look for is the unseen that can get you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And matter of fact, even before Trump came in office, he set up how he already knew who the judges and the lawyers he was going to appoint. He already knew who he was going to have. So he already started working on them before he even won the election.
That's
before
true.
He won the election. Because those people that became the judges, the federal judges, they had already taken care of small things for him. And now that they're federal judges, Trump's taking care. Now they're taking care of him. Because no matter what law you pass, no matter what you do, it can be taken to court. And the final decision is what? A judge, a federal judge. And if they're already owned by him, right now, the thing I'll talk to you about in politics the most, nobody's paying attention to the one thing that can never be controlled. For every white person that's a racist, they cannot produce enough children to match the non-white, the white people that are not racist, the Spanish people, the different people of color. There's no way mathematically possible that they can keep up. And here's what happened. The third generation of those people of color are now educated, and they're now moving into states like Texas and North Carolina and all these states because they're doing it because they have education. They have the ability to get the professional jobs in those states, and now they're having kids. At a certain point, the minority is going to become the majority. So right now, everything you're seeing, the GOP, the racist GOP, not when I say white people, I say racist white people, because there are a lot of good white people in the world that have
absolutely
millions of, we know them all, So we got to be careful when we say, the white people. Race, you got to specifically say racist white people, because you can't just say the Christians, but you got to say the racist Christians, because there is a difference, I've just recently seen a white deaconess say that what they're doing, what them racist white deaconess are doing is wrong, because he has a moral compass. He said it, my moral compass and the way the book is written, I cannot follow those white nationalists. Mm-hmm. So we have to teach, and we always lose because we use our words the wrong way when we're talking about a certain group of people. We need to label them exactly. The way they label us is the way we need to exactly label them. Because there are tons of white allies, that can get things done for us. But we make them afraid because we group them in with the bad. And it's the same thing I say about the police. I talk about the bad police. I don't say F the police. I say F the bad ones in any subject. F the bad lawyers, F the bad judges, and you can't put people in a group. You got to put them in the group that they belong in. Racist, terrorists, you got to say those words first. The ones who are actually bad, the bad apples, because I know some very good cops were related to a bunch of them, and I know some very good cops I grew up and played with. I know some very good cops that I served in the military that I used to serve in the military with that are white and that are from places that are really racist, but they're not. They're good humans, And if we stop to word things right, we will get that group that, Mr. Hampton, before he was killed in Chicago, was trying to put together. Because what we need is good people. We need to deal with people on a human level and stop grouping them into titles. Just like, I grew up in South End, New Bedford. There are people that say, "Oh, you people down South End, New Bedford." Motherfucker, I'm a straight A student. Right. What you talking about? You know what I'm saying? I was like, perfect attendance. What are you talking about? You know, this is what I'm saying. You know, and I know some brilliant people on both ends. You know, some of my former classmates that are white, they've come back and heard me talk, and they said, "Paul, I said, no, you're not. You're human. You know, you're not like the people I'm talking about just because of your." And I laughed at him, and I'll tell you his name, Jim Flanagan. I said, Jim, I'm not judging you because you're white. I said, you one of the most human people on the planet, bro. I said, you a grinder and everything. You know what I mean? Yeah, I said, you're a human. I said, you're not white, you're a human. You know, and that's how I treat you. You know, which is different. Race was something that was brought up because somebody was weak in the mind and couldn't compete with us. You know, but I mean, let me stop overdoing this with you, because you know how I can go, Mike. You know,
I know. That's why I want you on for part 2.
I can actually go on this, you know. But no, I really want a lot of these parents to try to get these kids, you know. And here's the other big thing, if I could get out, because I mean, we have a lot of former athletes. Like we have people like, you know, my cousin AJ, my cousin Marcus, and then you got the boxers, my cousin Ray Oliver and all them. They're doing these things. And I talked to JoJo, and I was telling him, I was like, JoJo, we need to create a single AAU program, and we need to get some track coaches in there, kid, because we can tell them, we can teach them the actual skill of the game, but we need to get their bodies, and then we need these people that teach the mental and start teaching them young, and no matter what the sport they play. In other words, they need to have a core competitiveness that they take onto the court, that they take into the classroom, that they take into the job interviews, that they say, this is New Bedford, this is us. You know what I mean? Yeah, I said, we're discouraging people from being artists and all this stuff because we're individualizing, and like I said, we're separating them and hurting them. I mean, I read Bill Russell's book, and he correlates with Pat Ewing on this. You know, both Bill Russell and Pat Ewing were heavy into art.
No.
Pat Ewing went to Georgetown on art. He was studying art. You see
I
what
didn't
I'm
know
saying?
that.
And it was through the art, you know, the angles, the correlation, how things blend and mix, that they applied to basketball. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And this is what I'm saying. These kids are being so, you know, we have to teach them skills. No, you have to teach them the process to apply. You know, there are kids that I've coached up here or in my time in the military where I showed them a single stance that they could use for tennis, basketball, boxing, you know, volleyball, that starts with that single stance. You know what I'm saying? And then I showed them how it works with karate, kung fu, Muay Thai, jiu-jitsu. And then I showed them different things. And then I also showed them, look, that guy doing ballet, same stance. You know what I'm saying? So we need to teach these kids more how to process than how to parrot. We're teaching them how to parrot. And when they fail at the parrot, they think they're a failure at everything else. You know?
All right, now before I have to interrupt you on one thing, because you talked about, you know, your cousins and all that, all true. But why can't they come together as one?
This is the point I'm making. That's why when I was talking to, you know, JoJo, the Hall of Fame football player, I told him about a program down south that it's one AAU program. It has soccer, swimming, track, all that. And it has academics, all that, you know? Because at the same time, you got my cousin Isaiah, who's a school teacher. This guy can teach them the track elements and all of a sudden, and you see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
You got to incorporate it into it, man. And then you got all these female athletes that, you know, sometimes, hey, listen, I'm not going to lie to you. A lot of my knowledge of basketball came from female basketball players. I paid more attention to Helen Gomes and them than I did some of you guys talking, you know.
I hear you.
because they taught the game to me. For me, it had to make sense. No matter what you were teaching me, I had to be able to take it in, apply it, and then incorporate me into it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I also have an idea of what I want to do with it. And it's that feel free thing that you have to do. But this is what I'm saying. I mean, the NBA now has some female basketball coaches. Are you kidding me? There's a female trying to be that works with football players coaching. You see what I'm saying? So my thing is, and here's where it sunk in. When I was overseas, and this person, because you don't have the American sports, but I needed a competition thing. So one of the girls I was dating, she taught me badminton.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, I'm aggressive. So you can't really, even as hard as you swing, it's not going to go as fast as hard as you swing. So when she was teaching me the innards of it, I said, why don't I apply this to everything else? You know what I mean? So even some of the things that I teach guys about soccer or even swimming, I apply some of the things from badminton, and it's all processing, it really comes down. And I've tried to talk, I'm 60 years old now, maybe because I'm 60 that I think, okay, now I'll go back and tell them what to do, and I keep telling these younger guys in their 40s, no, this is your show. You're responsible for the generation behind you. They're not, I'm 4 generations removed from them, like every time somebody asks me to coach, I'm like, I'm only going to have that kid's attention for the first day. He's going to respectfully listen to me. But at a certain point, he's going to tune me out. So you guys are responsible for that generation, and I need more of them like that to get back in. I'm not asking them to give back, but I'm just asking them to pass on. You know what I mean? Because you might be the one that kid listens to, versus even the coach, And I know a lot of people like, oh, we can't have too many coaches. You cannot have enough coaches. And that's why I was going to bring up Wemby. You got this kid who's a Muslim kid whose family came from North Africa. He grows up in Paris, France, which is all soccer and all that. He's a basketball player. You know what I mean? And then he comes here with using exactly what I'm saying. So he's applying how you learn, and he says to himself so he came here thinking I'm gonna do what I can the first year, and then I'm gonna adjust. He spent the summer with Akeem Olajuwon.
Yeah, right.
Kevin Garnett, Kevin Durant, and he went to the Shaolin thing.
That's it. You're right.
Think about that. Any American kid who grew up wherever, they're going to go to only one person, one style, and all that. I mean, I was hoping he added Ralph Sampson because Ralph Sampson's the only other 7'5" that he could go to and communicate with on that level.
Mm-hmm.
But he is willing to learn all the different styles from them guys that he probably watched videos of from his uncle or whoever that had it in Germany, in France. He wants to learn, and then look what he did with his body. His body shot up.
Yes, absolutely.
Because he must have looked at some of the film on Kareem when Kareem first came into Milwaukee, and I'm pretty sure Hakeem Olajuwon told him about Kareem and Moses Malone. If you're learning from Hakeem, you're learning from Moses. If you're learning from Kevin Garnett, you're learning from Kevin McHale. And if you're learning from KD, you're learning from everybody from the DC, Baltimore area. Here's what that kid don't know. Like every part of this country has a different mindset when it comes to sports, a different philosophy. Even Detroit is different from DC, even though it looks similar. Because when you're in the Army, you get all these guys in the same place at once, and everybody's telling you that they're the best. And then the best part is when you ask them, well, show me why.
Right.
And what they don't know is when you're showing me why, you're teaching me. I'm telling you, Boston's better. Show me why Detroit's better. Show me why DC's better. Nah. Chicago, no. Atlanta, LA, Texas. You Texas guys, and they'll be like, nah, down here we do it like this. And then all they're doing is giving me data.
Right.
All they're doing is giving me data. Because now I'm taking everything y'all got and I'm creating my own. And I do that not just in sports. I do that in my job field. I do that, and I'm IT. I do that in every facet. Because as a war planner, you need to know what can sneak up on you.
Now, you said you're a war planner. For the viewers who are tuning in, what does that mean?
Okay, so
that you can talk about.
And even some of the guys that are in the military, they're gonna be like, "Oh, Paris telling them something that's not true," but it is. Okay. When I entered the military, I was a forward observer, a 13 Fox. At the lowest level, as a 13 Fox, you travel with either the armor, the infantry, or whatever. And my job is to, when the battle got back then, according to them, when the battle got tough and they asked for help, I could bring in artillery, air support, whatever. Because in order for me to do that, I needed to know everything about the battle plan. Because if I bring in artillery at a wrong time, it could mess up what they're doing. So I had to know how to, like a point guard, line it all up. That's at the very lowest level. As you start moving up in rank, now I have to do it for the platoon. Then you have to do it for the company. And then the bigger the level you get up, the more support. Now I have to know about the engineers. Now I have to know about, our cousin, Gary Correa. When Gary Correa was coming into the battle zone, I had to set up an aerial box called an ACA where he could fly through during that time frame in order for him to make his strike and fly up. I could not have no rockets or missiles going through that box because big sky, little bullet, you don't want to kill your own planes. I also had to know with the thing you saw with the Washington, the helicopter with the airplane, I had to know the area in the air for the helicopters. Helicopters fly lower than fast movers. They fly at different levels. They can fly as low as the ground. That interferes with certain indirect fire, and all that. Also, lasers coming out. So I had to know what everybody does at all times. I had to know the capabilities of every round in the military. So when you start getting the levels like that, you start running into things at the higher levels. You actually start war planning. And in order to be a war planner, you have to go over scenarios that could possibly happen. So at one point, I was working with NATO and stuff like that. And all these guys do, like the generals and all that stuff, all they do is plan for future contingencies. Because it's not easy to move anything over 400 soldiers anywhere. When you're talking about like what happened in the Gulf War, you had units from all over the United States, all over Germany, all going to Iraq. Before they could even move there, we had to know who was going where, how many, what was their backup, what was the things, how much material was needed. So that's the war planning part. Then you have to plan in case of an emergency, like an attack on any level. So all these scenarios that are coming up, like a bombing or whatever in a country that can trigger a war, you have to know how to quickly get people there. So you already have to have that plan. So all you do is put it in motion. So war planners go through scenarios on a regular basis. Like anytime something pops up on the news, I'm automatically thinking, how are they going to do it? Because you see my posts that I make after an incident happens. I start actually talking scenarios and things like that. Even when that shooter, the sniper, killed the guy, Charlie Kirk.
Yes.
I had to know, another thing is, as a forward observer, if the enemy fires at you, you have to know where it came from.
Right.
So I have to know crater analysis from a bullet to a mortar shell to an artillery shell to a rocket shell. I can determine what direction, how far back it came from. Because then I also have to know the capabilities of each one of them.
Damn.
So I'm constantly bringing data and information into I'm a data hog. I'm an information hog. Even when we're getting it, I live in chaos. Like in a large group of people, I actually can hear people all at once and section them into who said what and all that. You know, it's this thing that happens to me 24 hours a day. Now, I'll give you the other side of being a combat veteran. So the first thing, and this is a question I say dear to my heart. I just had a conversation with my cousin when my Aunt Mary died because he was a combat vet. And I looked him in the eye and I said, cuz, you can talk to me. We're both actual combat vets. You can't have a regular conversation with just anybody in the military or who served, because they might have been a REMF, a rear echelon MFer. You know what I mean? If they were in supply or something like that, he was actually combat arms. And I looked him in the eye and I said to him, I said, cuz, don't even answer this question. I said, and I looked at him and I said, what do you see when you close your eyes? And you can just see him close his eyes and he just paused. And he tried to do the defensive and immediately respond. And then I just put his hand and he looked at me and we didn't say nothing. He just looked at me like, you know. And it's different on every level. I can talk to a guy in Vietnam and say to him, and I don't need to know his answer. I can see the level of what he's seen. And we don't discuss it. You hear these guys coming back telling war stories. I kind of like when people tell certain war stories, I look at them. I'm a war planner. I know what everything can happen. So I know when somebody's sending a wolf ticket out.
Right.
But I don't. Sometimes I let them embellish. But if they're doing something that they're going to say that's going to harm the view of a true war veteran, the next thing you hear me say is, "What was your MOS? What was your job?" And they know the minute they say that I asked that question, if they were a REMF, they're going to back off. If they were combat arms, they're going to give me a serious look like, don't even ask me that question. And then I relate this to people who serve time in prison. The ones that did the serious stuff versus the ones that went there on a little vacation. And I tell a lot of people that serve time that they're like, oh man, you actually went to war. I said, dude, it's very similar. Because what do you see when you close your eyes? Because you really don't sleep. You just close your eyes at rest. And I did suicide prevention for years in the military too. Imagine that. Well, they did it because I'm a crazy Creole from New Bedford. Because they had to choose somebody to put in that class. And they're like, Paris, none of this shit bothers you. Go to that class. And I was like, what? They're like, suicide prevention. I don't want to hear your stories. I don't want to know your shit. But they found out that I can relate to people because, we grew up in chaos. The Paris family's chaos. 17 people, chaos. That's normal. Like the shit don't bother me. You know what I mean? Because people ask me, how can you do suicide prevention? I said, have you met my family? I said, have you met my family? I said, I'm not talking bad about them. It's just that we think what you think is crazy, for us, that's Tuesday.
I love it.
How many times did you walk into 338 Pleasant Street and there was so much visual stimulus of things going on?
It was off the hook.
You could not hide it. Everywhere you turn on all levels of ages, something crazy was going on somewhere. You know what I mean?
True. That is true.
I forgot who it was from the old neighborhood. I asked them. They were like, "Oh, they're telling somebody about the Paris house." I was like, "Did we ever watch TV?" And he stopped in his tracks. He said, we never watched TV in the house. I said, we never had a TV that worked. It blew him away because he was another person. He goes, we would all go over that house every day. The whole neighborhood would be at the house. Nobody ever realized we never had a TV that worked. If it did, it might have lasted 2 or 3 days before somebody, you know, like I bet you didn't even know that.
I didn't know. Hell no, I didn't know.
You can't even remember a time you sat in my house and watched TV in my house.
Nope, never.
But it's always crazy in there.
Oh,
yeah.
I got stories.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what? I think I remember one time when my father had you go down to the office.
I gotta think about that.
I think
I'm sure I went down there.
You were Sonny Boy.
Oh, then you know it. Then you know it must have happened.
Yeah, if you went down there with Sonny Boy, my father made you, hey, Billy. You know, he always called, my father called everybody by their father's name. Ooh. He never called Jamie. He goes, hey, Billy Conn.
Oh, that's great.
And Billy used to go around saying, Mr. Paris, he knows my name. He don't know none of you. I'm like, you Billy Conn Jr. You know?
That's crazy, bro. That's crazy.
Call everybody by their father's name, like both the three of you.
Oh man.
Yeah, you know, but I mean, it's insane. I mean, some of the things now, you know, and I don't know if a lot.
Paul, let me ask you one question. With all that you've experienced, all you've done, did you ever suffer from PTSD?
I haven't, full-fledged. I've had PTSD. I can tell you the exact date. March 1984. Grenada. Not March 1984. 19 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. I went straight to Grenada. You know, and it kicked in after my birthday, February 28th. Was when I realized they're like, hey, you turned 19. I was like, damn, I could have died. That's the first time I said in my life, I could have died. You know, I'm sitting on an island, a tropical island. I mean, Grenada wasn't bad for me, you know, because I brought in the heavy stuff. But Grenada was the thing that the United States learned about Grenada was all the military was not communicating on the same line. Like the Army didn't really communicate well with the Air Force. We learned that in Grenada. Because we couldn't talk to, because I had to call Navy. You know, there was a possibility that I had to call in Navy, the big guns, the 16-inch guns, to fire. I never got to. I really wanted to. But we were having communication issues talking to the Navy. And I'm like, wait a minute. My whole entire job is to talk to all these other people. Because I worked with Belgium and all these different forces. And I was in Germany, I was able to communicate with them and work with them. I was like in Grenada, and I kept saying to myself, damn, if somebody was overrunning us and I'm trying to communicate with the Navy and it didn't happen, they could have overrun us because I couldn't get the job done, you know? And so the aftermath of Grenada, even though when we were giving our after action reviews, and even though every time after combat, you go through these decompression phases where you're talking to shrinks and all that stuff, you know? And mind you, my father had just died 2 years before that. And I found out I had never dealt with his death. They thought I was on a suicide mission because I always wanted to be first. Like I would tell them, listen, whatever you want us to do, have me go first. I don't want to watch somebody fail. You know? And that was my whole thing the whole entire time in the military was I don't want to see somebody make a mistake. You know? And I'm going to do all my homework I can leading up to it to where I cover everything possible. But I don't ever want to see because then if I'm thinking about that, I'm going to make a mistake.
Right.
So I would always be like, you know, even in the Gulf War, at the end of my time, we were all in a tent and it came down to 4 people one of us was going to be in the vehicle that was going to be going forward all the way first. And I forgot who I was with. I knew all of them, all the big generals and all that from Fort Benning and from the times that I'd been on certain things. And somebody looked at me and said, Paris, I know you're not going to be quiet. I said, yeah, tell him. They're like, you don't have to ask. Paris is going to do it. But at the time, it wasn't just about me, but now I had to worry about my team.
Right.
It was okay for me to make that choice for me. But now I'm making that choice for 10 other guys that I'm responsible. Right. And mind you, my guys trusted me like no tomorrow. Like they actually, because I would be honest, because I would always tell them, even when we were in Germany, I was like, we got to practice as if I'm gone. I need to know that you can do the job if something happens to me. You know, when my brother Johnny died and I went on emergency vacation back to the United States, my guys had to step up and do the job while I was gone. And they did it so well when I came back that they took them. They took them off my team and gave them their own team.
Right.
So, but it was the person, I was pissed because I was losing my guys. You know, but it comes to my philosophy of sports, of training sports and all that, is you got to teach them to be better than you, and you can't be jealous if they are.
Uh-huh.
You know, you can't bake a cake and hope it sucks. You know? Right. When you bake a cake or you cook a meal, you want people to be like, this is the best. So you can't be jealous of what you created. Because anything coming after you needs to be better than you because you gave them an earlier head start. The student needs to be better than the teacher. All levels. Because the teacher taught him from his mistakes. You know, no matter what you're teaching. Mathematics, I don't care what subject, what level. Because I bragged when we were in the tent and in Safwan in the surrender, and I looked around the tent, there were 15 guys that I trained that now 8 of them outranked me. I had trained them at one point in their career, and they exceeded me, you know, because like I said earlier about having these kids go to these private schools, you know, you don't know what they have that could be, you know what I mean? You got to be kinetic. You know, there are too many people that be like, yeah, you know, I can always teach it. I can always show. No, you don't ever want to. You want that person you taught to be way better than you because whatever they create is way better. You want to, instead of being crabs in a bucket, we need to be the ladder climbing up.
Right. True.
You know, I want to take the ladder to the roof like that song said. You know what I mean?
Right.
And people don't get that with me because, like, I don't care. Like, my guys came back to me like one of the guys was giving a speech, and the people were clapping on him, and he was saying, if any of you want to be like me, go find that guy right there. You're gonna hate him the whole time. He's from the Boston area, but when you walk away, you're gonna walk away better. And that was probably my proudest moment. I'll even give you, his last name was Hank, and he was from white dude from Wisconsin. You know, he goes, honestly, he goes, seriously. And he said it, he goes, I'm a white guy from Wisconsin. That's a black man who taught me he's not African-American, that he's African because his family's from Africa. He goes, initially, anybody from my neighborhood would never listen to somebody from his neighborhood. He goes, but he always told me, take what I teach you and make it better. You know? Yeah. You know?
That's incredible, man. You know something, man? We only got like 5 minutes. This went by so goddamn quick. You know, I don't know.
Round three.
It's going to be part 3. But, you know, before we go, first of all, I want to thank you for coming on my show again and giving out so much knowledge to the viewers, because I'm sure they're going to be captivated like I am. Because I don't know. I'm taking everything you say, and I'm like a sponge. So everything you're revealing to our audience is so important. And I want to thank you so much for coming on my show. Is there anything before we go, part 2, that you want to relay to the viewers?
Yeah. And this is deep in my heart because every time I look at it in New Bedford, it kills me. I want every single person above the age of 18 to register as an independent. Notice I did not tell you to be a Democrat or a Republican.
Aha.
And
Right.
here's the reason why. You are from New Bedford. Make them come find out what you want. Okay? When you walk in that booth, it's your choice. They convinced you. For you to say, I'm not going to register, I'm not going to vote. Nah, you want them to come after you. Every voter should be convinced individually, not as a group. Stand 10 toes on your own 10 toes. And I'm going to say what my mother always said to me. Take care of those who created you and take care of those you create. That's an everyday.
I can't even say anything after that. But you know what? Again, I want to thank you. And part 3, folks, what you don't know about Paulo, he's very knowledgeable about sports. We didn't kick it tonight about it because I wanted you to, but part 3, we're going to do just sports if we can.
Yes, absolutely.
But is anybody want to give a shout out to? Because you know this is going to be seen all over the country. You know how my show's doing all right. So if you anybody you want to give a shout out to, or you know whatever you want, bro, I just want to thank you. I'm going to give you your flowers, and you know,
I want to give a shout out to all Cape Verdeans that are doing something for Cape Verde freely. Charlie Perry, Joe Demora, Jaffa, we call her scribe sister, who's teaching us how to speak it. Us Creoles that never learned it, you know. All those people that give freely without asking for nothing in return. Gene Carson, all them people that are doing all them groups, the Progressive Center of Cape Verde. Right. I am more proud of you than you think.
Those are solid words, my brother. Oh, man. Anyway, Paul, we got to go, unfortunately. But we're going to do part 3.
Going to get some sports at one point, Mike.
I know we're going to do it because people don't even know how knowledgeable he is about sports. Me and him can go toe-to-toe. So that tells you how good he must be. But anyway, Paul, thank you for coming on my show. It's been an honor and a pleasure. And can't wait for part 3, my brother. You already know.
Do it.
Thank you for coming on, my brother. Take care. Love you, my brother.
Bye.
Oof. Folks, here we go again on my show, Sports Corner with the Conn Man on the Sports Wave Network. You know, Paulo Paris grew up with my brother back in the day, and you see what he's doing now. You know what I mean? I know it's a sports show, but sometimes I want to bring people in that are relevant, and he's very knowledgeable about sports. I'm letting you all know. I mean, we can kick it, and we can go toe-to-toe, you know, like off the hook, and when we do a part 3, hopefully it'll be a part 3, we're going to concentrate on sports. But tonight, folks, if you can tune in at 9 o'clock, we got the courtside view where we're going to be doing all things NBA. And we got a great panel, and I'm sure it's going to be very entertaining to say the least. You know what I mean? So if you can tune in tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern time as we do the courtside view. And we talk about, you know, the in-tournament play, the Lakers, the Spurs, and all things NBA, and maybe some more. So, folks, I want to thank you for tuning in to the Sports Wave Network and Sports Corner with the Conn Man. Before I do go, next Friday, we have a guy by the name of Junior. I call him Junior. Anyway, he developed this complex. It's called the Farmhouse Sports Academy. And in this academy is soccer, baseball, basketball, tennis. I mean, it's a facility that is off the hook. They have a grand opening on next Saturday, November 8th. He's coming on my show November 7th and talk about all things about the Sports Academy and all that it entails. And he got professional players. He's got, I mean, it's off the hook. and he's going to be coming on next Friday at 6 p.m. So, folks, again, thank you for tuning in to the Sports Wave Network, Sports Corner with the Conn Man. Take care. God bless.